At Preston Corporation, Linda is the best employee in the office. Her manager Donovan is very impressed by her report and praises her skills, but he doesn't let her attend the board meeting. He promises he'll let everyone know this is her work. However, when the meeting begins, Donovan removes her name and takes the credit. Linda tries to share her frustrations with a coworker, but she only comes off as awkward and weird. When other coworkers try to organize an outing, she tries to chat with them and come along, but she's always left out. At home, Linda has no friends or family. She's alone in all her vacation pictures, and her only company is her parrot. Yet Linda always remains positive and thinks that with enough hard work she'll find success one day. The company owner even said that she was next in line for vice president. After dinner, Linda likes to watch Survivor. Her books and vacation pictures show her interest in the subject of survival. The next day, Bradley takes over his late father's position as company president. Linda quickly hides her lunch and rushes to introduce herself, but she still has mayo on his face, so Bradley is repulsed. She tries to make a joke about shoes that only makes Bradley feel more awkward, so he leaves for his office. Afterward, Bradley notices mayo on his hand and complains about how disgusting Linda is. Executive Franklin informs him that Linda was promised the vice president position, but Bradley says he'll give that promotion to Donovan. Franklin explains that the company depends on Linda, and even Bradley's father dumped everything on her. Bradley doesn't care and wants her moved to another office to keep her hidden. Then Franklin desperately points out that they have a major meeting in Bangkok coming up. Donovan can't handle it alone. In fact, nobody has solved the issue with Appendix D. Bradley agrees to bring Linda to the trip, but only so she can help Donovan. She won't be allowed in any meetings. Later, Linda notices that Bradley and Donovan are fooling around together. A coworker informs her that they used to be fraternity buddies and Donovan has been promoted to vice president. A furious Linda rushes to Bradley's office to ask why she didn't get the promotion, pointing out that Donovan has been here for only 6 months and she's been here for 7 years. Bradley explains that Linda is good with numbers but she isn't good with people, and he needs someone who can charm a room to get business deals. He also points out that she has something on her teeth, further humiliating her. As a compromise, he tells her to join the Bangkok trip and solve the issue with Appendix D so she can prove him wrong. Linda tries to protest, but Bradley ignores her to play golf. At that moment, Bradley's fiancée Zuri arrives and Linda notices her very expensive ring. When she tries to leave, Bradley says people have been complaining about Linda having her lunch at her desk because of the smell, so she must eat in the break room. This is a lie, he's the only one bothered by this. Linda walks through the office while holding back tears, feeling everyone's eyes on her. She manages to make it to her car and tries to convince herself that she's enough, but she's still crying. On the morning of the trip, Linda arrives at the airport full of energy and announces she's solved the issue with Appendix D, but Bradley isn't paying attention. During the flight, Linda keeps working while the guys fool around. Donovan reveals he's found Linda's audition tape for Survivor and everyone laughs at her. When Linda realizes what's going on, she's so upset that she decides not to send her report with a solution. Suddenly the plane shakes for a few seconds, so the stewardess makes everyone take their seats and secure their seatbelts. Bradley and Linda immediately do so, but Bradley makes a joke saying only weaklings need seatbelts, so the others laugh instead of sitting. When the plane starts shaking again, Donovan and 2 other employees are thrown around the cabin. At that moment the plane catches fire and starts going down. The wall breaks and the cabin depressurizes, causing an employee to get sucked out. Donovan holds on to Linda's leg so she offers her arm to help him, only for him to ask for her seat. At the same time, the other guy tries to hold on to Bradley, who immediately pushes him off. The employee manages to grab Donovan's leg as Linda's glasses fly off, hitting him on the face. Since Donovan keeps telling him to let go, the guy bites his leg, and Donovan responds by hitting him. Then Donovan grabs Linda by the throat and asks for the seat again, so she grabs a fork and stabs his hand, causing him to let go. Both men are sucked out of the plane and Donovan's tie gets stuck in the hole, so his body keeps bouncing on the glass. When he asks for help, Linda closes the window. After losing one of the engines, the plane lands on the sea and water starts flooding the cabin. Linda holds her breath as she struggles with the seatbelt. Once she manages to free herself, she swims ahead and is startled by the body of the stewardess. She screams before swimming out of the plane to reach the surface, only to discover she's in the middle of nowhere. Soon the plane disappears underwater. The next morning, Linda wakes up on an island. She wanders around for a while until she discovers that Bradley is there too. He's unconscious and has a deep cut in his leg. Linda hits a rock with another rock to form a blade and uses it to cut plants, then she gathers vines and branches and builds a shelter. She also digs a hole and puts down coconut shells to collect water. In the evening it starts raining, but Linda is safe in the shelter while taking care of Bradley. The next day, Linda drinks water from the coconut. At that moment Bradley wakes up so she makes him drink some water too. He has a small breakdown when he hears nobody else survived and thanks Linda for helping him. Afterward Linda works hard with some branches and leaves to make a fire. She also catches a fish and cooks it over the flames. When she offers some to Bradley, he refuses to eat because he hates the smell, so Linda forces the food into his mouth. The following morning, Linda is very excited because she's found a conch. However, Bradley is irritated and asks why she hasn't made a distress signal or looked for GPS equipment on the plane. Linda says her priority has been keeping them alive, but he thinks the priority should be to get rescued. When Bradley tries to stand up, he feels great pain, so Linda tries to help him, but he doesn't want her to touch him. She teases him for his soft hands and Bradley gets angry, reminding her to talk properly to him because she's his employee. A frustrated Linda picks up her things and leaves him alone. As hours pass, Bradley tries to pretend he's fine alone. However, he starts feeling thirsty and hungry and realizes he can't do this without her. That night a strong wind blows off his shelter. The next day the sunlight starts burning his skin and he passes out. Linda comes to see him with some water and announces they aren't in the office anymore, so he agrees. Moments later Bradley is finally having food. Linda says she's seen tracks from a boar, so she makes a spear to hunt it. Bradley doesn't think that Linda from accounting can hunt a boar and Linda immediately corrects him, saying she's actually from the strategy and planning department. She calls him out for lying since he clearly didn't look at her work like he said. In the woods, Linda follows the tracks on the ground but freezes when she hears a noise. Suddenly the boar appears behind her and knocks her down. Luckily it gets stuck behind a fallen tree, giving her time to run. Then the boar runs around the tree and goes looking for her, not stopping until he finds her jacket on the ground. Linda jumps from above and stabs it in the neck, however the spear breaks and the boar runs to shake her off. When it charges at her, she uses the other spear half to stab it again, yet the boar is still alive and keeps spitting blood and mucus at her face. Linda desperately takes the first spear half from its neck and repeatedly stabs it in the eye, finally killing it. Moments later, Linda proudly drops the boar's head in front of Bradley and announces she likes hunting. That night, they both enjoy the amazing meat. Some days later, Linda is exploring when she discovers a waterfall and she decides to take a shower. Suddenly she hears a noise and sees a boat nearby. Linda rushes to ask for help, but stops herself when she realizes she's happy here. Then she returns to the camp and gives Bradley some water while showing him the backpack she's made with leaves. However, Bradley is frustrated because it's been 2 weeks and they haven't been found. When Linda asks him to stay positive, Bradley snaps and yells at her, saying they should build a raft. Linda thinks it's a bad idea and they start arguing. Soon Bradley realizes she's happy the way things are and tries to walk away, but he's slow because of his injured leg. He points out that Linda thinks she's a big deal but he's the president of an important company. However, Linda laughs and reminds him that his father did it all and he's just a nepo baby. When Bradley fires her, Linda just laughs more. Bradley leaves and tries to set up his own camp, but no matter what he tries, everything fails. Meanwhile, Linda has built a strong shelter, a hat, and even a hammock, not to mention she has food. She also uses branches to finally write the word help on the sand. He's so hungry that he ends up catching a bug and tries to eat it, but it's so disgusting that he spits it out. Eventually Bradley approaches Linda, who has made a table and a whole sushi spread. He tries to be friendly but she humiliates him by pointing out he has something on his teeth. Then he notices she has a knife, so she explains she found it on the shore. Bradley starts to apologize for his attitude but Linda asks for more, so he mentions how much he underestimated her and how important she's to the company. She keeps eating and drinking just to mock him, thus a desperate Bradley falls on his knees and promises to help. Since she keeps teasing him, Bradley ends up begging and offering naughty times. Linda immediately stops him and finally agrees to take him back. In the afternoon, Linda brings Bradley on a walk to rehabilitate his leg. They reach the mountain and take a very narrow path where they have to make some dangerous jumps. Linda shows him that there's nothing but water for miles before they keep moving. She then shows him how to check for poisonous berries. They must rub them on the skin to see if there's a reaction. Lastly, she points at 2 rocks forming an X, explaining that in that part of the island there are only thorn bushes and poison vines. They must never go there if they want to live. On their way back, Bradley decides to take a break to rest his leg. Suddenly the ground breaks under Linda's feet and she has to hold on to some vines to avoid falling. Bradley immediately reaches for her and helps her climb back up. They land on top of each other and laugh at the situation. During dinner, Linda reveals she's been making alcohol from fermented fruit and it should be ready now. By nighttime, they're both drunk. Linda suddenly shares that she used to be married. Their relationship lasted 10 years before his death, but Linda doesn't feel bad because he was an unloving husband. Bradley says he knows how that feels because he never truly knew his dad. The man had always been working and never had a connection with his son or wife. His mom was abusive and Bradley tries not to resent her because his grandfather was the same to her. This inspires Linda to admit her husband was also abusive and liked to drink. She usually hid the car keys when he drank too much, but one night they had a very bad fight and he did awful things to her. Linda finally had enough and let him have the keys, so he left in the car and had the accident that killed him. She never told this to anyone, and concludes that they shouldn't leave the island. The next morning Linda wakes up with an awful hangover. When she goes to the shore to freshen up, she sees Bradley bathing and realizes how attractive he is. In the afternoon, a terrible storm hits the island and Linda has to push Bradley out of the way to save him from a falling tree. Then they run to a cave to hide until the storm passes. Bradley hugs Linda to share body heat. The following day Linda wakes up alone in the cave, so she goes looking for Bradley, who is in the woods. Their camp has been destroyed and Linda apologizes for building it so close to the shore. Bradley just says that they can build a new one together on higher ground. Sometime later, the duo has a brand new camp. When Bradley feels his leg getting stiff, they go for a walk and he thanks her for everything she's taught him. In the evening, he volunteers to make dinner and admits this is the first time he's ever cooked. Suddenly Linda starts feeling dizzy and realizes he put the bad berries in her food before she collapses. Then Bradley runs into the woods and comes back with a raft he's been building in secret. He gets on the water and rows away until a wave hits him. The raft stays in place and he's so proud of his work that he gives Linda the finger. However, when a second wave hits him, the raft comes apart and a third bigger wave throws Bradley into the water. He's slowly drowning and hallucinating that Zuri has come for him. However, she pukes on him. It turns out Linda has rescued him while she's still sick from the berries. On the shore, she starts doing CPR while more puke falls on Bradley's face. The next morning Linda feeds Bradley before explaining that she needs to teach him that he isn't in control anymore. Suddenly Bradley starts feeling sick and Linda reveals she's fed him a kind of octopus that emits a toxin that blocks human nerves. He'll remain conscious but his body won't be able to move. Once Bradley is fully paralyzed, Linda puts her knife on the fire and takes off Bradley's clothes while talking about her old dog, who was fixed to make him more obedient. She tells Bradley that he needs to accept she's the boss now and lowers the knife to his groin, making it look like she's cutting his member off. Bradley can't move his eyes so he only cries as blood splatters on his face. However, Linda pulls out a dead rat, revealing it was all a trick to scare him. She swears that if he makes another mistake, the next time it won't be a rat. When Bradley is feeling better, he continues to work but ignores Linda, who goes looking for fruit. On the opposite beach, she's shocked to see Zuri arrive on a boat. Zuri rushes to hug Linda and even remembers her name. Linda tells them that Bradley is fine, but secretly she doesn't want this to end. As she guides Zuri and the captain to the camp, she wonders if there are more search parties. They confirm that there aren't. In fact, Zuri hired her own boat to continue the search. Linda takes the duo up the mountain, claiming that the camp is there. When they reach the weak spot, she stops to pretend to tie her shoelaces and tells them to keep going. Zuri immediately slips off the edge and the captain grabs her as he asks Linda for help, but she doesn't move. Moments later Linda returns to the camp and sits on the shore, dealing with her guilt. Bradley says they should go hunting, but Linda announces she's taking a sick day. Bradley reminds her he can't do it alone while noticing the knife nearby. That night, Linda hears Zuri's voice calling her name and finds her crawling out of the sea. Zuri calls her a murderer and Linda panics as she waves her torch, only to realize she's hallucinating. When a creepy corpse jumps on her from behind, Linda wakes up. The next morning Bradley tries to go hunting, but he makes noise and the boar runs away. At that moment he sees a hand sticking out of the sand and has a breakdown when he discovers Zuri's ring. He yells in fury as he runs back to the camp. When Linda returns from her walk, Bradley asks if she killed Zuri and shows her the ring. Linda explains that Zuri slipped, but she didn't tell him because he wouldn't believe her. Bradley confirms he doesn't believe her and mentions her husband, so Linda reaches for the knife. However, Bradley has it, thus Linda starts running away. A chase ensues and Bradley quickly loses sight of Linda. He checks behind a tree and sees her shoes before she jumps on him and tries to choke him with her shoelaces. In the struggle, he drops the knife. Bradley manages to push Linda as he rips off some skin from her head, and Linda jumps on him again to continue the fight. He tries to choke her and she responds by biting his shoulder, ripping off some skin too. Then she bites his hand and Bradley pushes his thumb into her eye. Linda manages to grab a rock and hits him in the head, making him dizzy. At that moment Linda smiles and reveals she has the ring. She then swallows it and gives him the finger. Bradley tackles her and they start fighting again. This time Linda grabs the knife and stabs him in the stomach, so he immediately runs away. Linda considers following him, but she notices that he's going to the X rocks and decides to wait. Moments later Bradley reaches the other side of the island and discovers that this area isn't dangerous, it actually has a vacation house. A furious Bradley runs to the nearest door and manages to get inside. He covers his wound with a kitchen cloth and takes fresh water from the fridge. At that moment he hears Linda's voice mocking him, so he opens a drawer but notices that all the knives are missing. Linda laughs at him for believing that the knife she found would wash up on shore. Realizing that she's speaking through the security system, Bradley throws an object at the camera to break it. However, Linda still sees Bradley as he walks to the other rooms. She explains that when she saw that boat many days ago, she followed it and watched some employees drop supplies. She memorized the lock password when they used it and later broke in. Linda also admits that she hit the boat captain to make him and Zuri fall to their deaths. Bradley continues to sneak around but is eventually cornered by Linda, who has found a gun. A desperate Bradley cries as he admits he was a monster, but he swears he's changed thanks to her and calls her the most amazing person he's met. He even says he loves her and that they can live happily together in this house. Linda also says she loves him, but at that moment she notices that a helmet decoration is missing a horn and Bradley has a hand behind his back. Bradley uses the distraction to attack her, making her drop the gun and slashing her with the horn. He quickly picks up the gun and tries to shoot her, only to discover there's no ammo. Linda grabs a golf club and strikes him several times to finally kill him. A year later, Linda is a successful woman playing golf with celebrities. When a reporter interviews her, it's revealed that she was found alone on a raft in the middle of the sea. Everyone thinks she was the only survivor, and she even wrote a book about her experience, which will soon become a movie. Now she's writing a self-help book to teach people to save themselves. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.